Welcome to the Veterans History Project. Today is March 31st, 2016. My name is Walter Little, and we're at Metro East in Gresham, Oregon. And today we have with us Jenika. Miss Jenika, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about you. Where were you born?
I was born in San Diego, but I was brought up as a toddler up here. And we lived in a sleepy little town at the time. It was called the sleepy little town of Willamette, old Willamette. Now they've incorporated it, so it's all Willamette. But we picked blackberries and had a lot of fun. Had the bookmobile come by, and it was exciting.
And where'd you go to high school then?
Oregon City High School.
And you have a sister?
I have a sister, Colleen.
And what's the age difference between you two?
She's my kid sister, my little. I think there's about 4.5 years between us.
So you graduated high school before she entered it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. So when you were in high school, what did you want to do or be when you graduated?
Oh, well, I was in thespian, so I thought that was good. I actually wanted to be an airline steward and fly around and go to different exciting places.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It does, but they had really strict height requirements in those days, and I was too tall. At 5'8", I was too tall. And that's the way it was. So
what did you do then?
Well, I started thinking about the military. There was one other girl that was there, and she was interested in the Navy. And I said, yeah, I think that's a good thing, because the uniforms are really pretty. I think the Navy would be great. So we went and talked to a recruiter, and I was thrilled, because there was no way after high school I could go to college, because my family was working class poor. And I saw this as an opportunity to see the world and get some college, I guess.
And this was back in the early 60s?
Early 60s, yeah. I graduated in 61 from high school. And 3 months later, I was 3 or 4 months later, I was in the military.
So at 18, you went into the Navy?
The Navy. I took my first plane ride. It was real exciting. You dressed up, and they had real plates, you know, not little doggy bags like they give you now.
Right.
Yeah.
And where'd you fly to?
Bainbridge, Maryland. That's where boot camp was for girls, for everyone, boot camp. And when I first entered, they showed me to the barracks, and I looked around, and I went, oh my God, I've made a mistake. This is so depressing. It was totally stark. Bunk beds with sheets folded on them, and I went, oh no, I made a mistake. This is so awful. Because I like a nice place, you know? And so I wasn't prepared for boot camp.
It is rather sparse.
Yes.
You don't have your own room, you don't have a big bed.
Yeah, it was sparse. So, but anyway, everything went fine. I absolutely loved the military. I loved getting up in the morning and standing in chow line, and they'd be playing music, and I'd be tearing up, because I was just so sentimental. They'd play all these other songs on inspections, and I'd be crying, and I was just so proud. I was so happy. I mean, life was great.
Now, did you know going into boot camp what you were going to be when you graduated, or?
No, not at all. They asked me for my skills, and I said, well, I can type, because my mother had her own secretarial service in her home. She was very entrepreneurative. She was an entrepreneur. So I taught myself typing from a book from the library. So I said, oh, I can type. They said, great, we can always use typists. So I got my orders to the typing pool. So I walked into the typing pool and went, oh no, I've made another mistake. I can't work like this. You know, everyone's in their little desks in rows, and we're typing. I thought, 8 hours a day like this? No. And so I wrote to my mother. I said, Mother, I'm so sad. They gave me orders to the typing pool, and it's very boring, and boring.
And where is this at?
Right there on base.
On base, okay.
So my mother called Commander Kitchen, the commander of the waves there. And I don't know what they said, but the next thing I knew, I had been promoted like that day, I think, or the next day, to be Commander Kitchen's assistant to her assistant. And I would, do little assistant things, and one of my jobs was to weed her flower bed. So I didn't know anything about weeding, so I pulled up everything. I pulled up the flowers, everything. But she laughed. She just laughed about it. She was very nice. Commander Kitchen was a saint. So after that, I was on the drill team. Let's see, first was a yeoman school. This is the classic graduated, Bainbridge, Maryland. And here I am there. Navy school, yeah. And then I was on the drill team. Oh, it's good picture. Here I am. And then I was on the drill team.
And this was still at Bainbridge?
Yes. And here I am here. And that was an exciting thing to be on. I and we'd do these formations, and no one could figure out how we made them so straight when we were rotating, but there were little tricks to it.
And you're right there in the middle in the front row?
Yep.
Where the flags cross?
Yeah, where the flags cross. Yep. I was getting to go to a crossroad there. And let's see. Then I got orders to Seattle, Washington. I was thrilled because I lived in Portland, so I knew I wouldn't be far from my parents. And one of the ladies there, Flo Gross, who was something at boot camp, I don't know what she was, supervisor or something, but she and I kind of laughed and would, exchange jokes and stuff at Bainbridge. Mm-hmm. Guess who was there? Flo was there at Seattle Sandpoint Naval Air Station.
Nice.
Flo Gross. It was wonderful. So I knew something, and we were close friends, and she liked to bake those homemade biscuits. Biscuit.
So did you get any visits from family when you were back east?
No, no.
So how long were you in Seattle before you got your first visit or came back to Portland?
Oh, probably just a couple weeks, I would imagine. Oh, I remember, no. They flew me into Portland. I caught a cab home, and I surprised my mother. I said, Mother, before I left, I said, Mother, I'm going to Washington. I'm sorry, it's far away, but I'm going to Washington. Yes. And I totally surprised her. Seattle, Washington. So it was nice.
So what was your job up in Seattle then?
I wrote training duty orders for naval reservists for 2 weeks, 2-week training duty orders. And at that time, and I had a secret clearance. I don't know why. I wouldn't know what to do with any information if I had it. So these were the guys in those days that did not see combat, that did not go to war, whatever. The reservists, and a lot of times that's why they kept on their reserve status. It's different now. I don't know how it runs, but we don't have a standing military now. Because if they tried to do it, there'd be a revolt.
So you had 8 hours a day, 5 days a week of issuing orders and stuff?
Oh no, I got to get the coffee. I got to go down and get the mail. I was the lowest ranked person there, so I did the little...
All the errands.
I was the errand girl in between typing, yeah.
And that was back when the typewriters were those pushers where you had to press down real hard, the keys kept jamming. And
that's right.
If you made a mistake, you had several copies you had to white out, and it's not like today where you just hit the back key and everything's fine.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it was hard days. I was a good typist, so it was okay. And the barracks, we had private rooms, no revelry, or revelry, that whatever that word is. We didn't have any of that. and it was relaxed on the base, fairly relaxed. We could do street clothes on the base. There was a bus that took us wherever we wanted to go, and so I went to the World's Fair a lot, took friends, and at one point the Beatles were playing in, I guess it was Vancouver. Where were they playing? It was a long drive. Vancouver.
BC?
Yeah, not BC, but anyway. So I said, let's go see the Beatles. I'll get our tickets and I've got a ride ready. And so we all went up, and Ron Vertrees drove, very wonderful man, drove us all up there, and we saw the Beatles. And I said, now don't be silly. When someone jumps out, don't start screaming. Well, Paul jumped out. I jumped up and said, I see Paul. And my little sister was crying and she was collecting grass afterwards. And, you know, it was a nice experience. So.
What was the name of the base you were on?
Sandpoint Naval Air Station.
And that's located where? Sandpoint?
Right, Sandpoint, Washington, I guess. It was right out of Seattle, NAS. Yeah. The Blue Angels flew there. They came in and did their practice.
Oh, nice.
And we'd sit out on the back stairs and would watch them, and they were amazing.
Now, you mentioned that your dad had been in the military.
Daddy had been in the military. Yeah, he was in the Army. And he was, I think they really hurt him with all the marching, because for a long while they didn't have anything to do, so they marched the guys. And he had bad feet because of that. But he never talked about it. He never talked about the military. Now and then we'd say, forgive me for saying this, Daddy, did you kill any Japanese? And because that's all we knew, they were. And I thought Daddy might be a hero in those days. My daddy would be a hero if he killed a enemy. Yeah. So, but he never talked about it, really. He fell in love with Mother, and she was at Camp Carlson. I think she was working on, she would do widgets. She was very good. And she went to work at some facility connected with the military, and then she met Daddy.
So
yeah.
He served over in the European theater of World War II.
Yes.
Okay, so he would have been fighting the Germans and not the Japanese.
Maybe, we didn't know.
So, you said that you liked being in Seattle because it was so close to your mom and dad, who lived where?
Yeah, Oregon City, Oregon.
Just outside Portland. Mm-hmm. And you said you were able to just catch these little jaunts down for free with the military?
Free hops home anytime I wanted on the weekend. And I went to Hawaii a few times. And that was before it was what it is now.
The tourist center.
Oh, it was something else. I would get on the bus and everyone was really quiet. And I looked around, I went, oh my God, I'm the only white person here. And now I knew how that felt. As experiencing a minority, being a minority, and not knowing what the rules were, because there's certain rules getting on the bus. So anyway, I went to I stayed free at the military barracks they had there. I stayed free. I went sunbathing right away, surfed on a surf, ended up getting second-degree burns. I didn't know the sun was that hot.
Yeah, they got sunblock nowadays.
I've
needed it a few times myself.
I was pretty hurt. Anyway, yeah, I traveled a lot. I'd hike a lot. I'd go to Friday Harbor and go up and down on the different ferries just for adventure. I like to do that. So I was pretty busy.
So, back in the 60s, being a woman, you were very restricted in the type of occupations you could have. Now, you told me earlier that you were proud to be serving in the military, that you were proud to be a soldier, or sailor, I guess I should say.
Proud to be in the military, a wave.
But how did you feel about being so restricted and stuff? That had to feel terribly unfair that the men make you do pretty much anything and you had two choices.
Well, my parents were pretty strict, and just to be out of my home was a delight, and meeting new people and being in different places, and I just accepted it. We were very accepting of the women's role in those days. That's just the way it was. We didn't really think too much about it, but I could do almost anything a guy could do, type, whatever. I don't know. But I was real driven to get my education and to move on and do stuff and go. I thought life was a big adventure, and I was in this wonderful adventure, and I was going to sign up, go to Germany, and meet interesting people.
So you did lots of things while you were serving, though. You were part of a glee club, you said?
When I was serving, I was at the drill team, you mean?
Drill team, sorry.
Drill team, Yeoman School.
And you went to night school?
I went to night school.
Your education?
I hopped down to Portland, Oregon City to see my parents. I go to Hawaii. I was pretty busy. Yeah, I had a lot of energy. I still do have a lot of high energy.
And so you served in the military for how long?
3 years. That's
my phone, sorry.
Oh, goody.
I'm going to put it in there.
Yeah, I had to get the coffee and get the mail, and I was like the low person rank-wise, and plus I was a female, so that's what I did when I worked there. But I didn't mind. I was happy to be free. I had a greater degree of freedom out of school and out of my parents' home when I went to the military. And being in Sandpoint Naval Air Station with private rooms and...
Well, you said you loved serving. What was it you liked the best about serving?
Well, I believed in my country. We are the greatest country. We're kind to all the other countries and help them out when they need us. I thought I was right up there doing it. I was being helpful and...
Well, on top of all this other stuff...
And I like the order. I like the orderliness.
Yes.
I did like order. Everything sharp. In fact, when I would go out and take a trip somewhere, the first thing I would notice is the sloppy way people dressed. It was probably just called casual, but to me it was, because look at us. We had to have everything just right. So, sorry I interrupted you.
No. Now, on top of the other duties that you had, your base also was import for immigrants coming in and stuff, refugees, and you had responsibilities there too.
Oh, with the Alaska earthquake refugees?
Yes.
In April, they had that huge, horrible earthquake up at Kodiak, Alaska. And many people were home, they lost everything. And so 12 or 16 or so came down, and the base was going to shelter them. And I was master at arms of the wave barracks at the time. So I was taking care of them, assigning them rooms, knowing their names. In fact, some reporters came by and took my picture. Here I am interviewing the refugees, Kodiak refugees. I was not in uniform, which was not out of the ordinary at that time because it was a relaxed base, not burping babies and changing diapers. But I did wear my University of Washington sweatshirt and cutoffs. Cutoffs were very popular in the 60s. So I was wearing my cutoffs, and I look and I see that I'm barefoot too. I was really out of uniform. But it would have been okay. So this picture went UPI. That was when we had the Herald Tribune. It went UPI all over the world. And the next thing I know, we had some waves come by in uniform from Bremerton, and they were sharp, and they saw this picture, and they were shocked by it because I was out of uniform, wasn't even wearing shoes. So they went to Captain Harmer, I think was the naval commander, and snitched on me. Said, we think something should be done about this. She's out of uniform. And so just to make peace, Captain Harmer says, okay, all right, I think maybe she should be, what do you think? Oh, I think she should be on report for being out of uniform. He says, okay. So the scuttlebutt went all around the base that Yeoman Yuri was out of uniform and is on report and is in trouble.
And you said back then that your other mates and stuff tried to avoid you because guilt by association?
Yeah, well, the interviewers, just let me regress a bit. The people who took the picture called me and said, well, how do you like your picture in the paper? And I said, well, I really liked it, and my parents liked it too. But I'm in trouble because I was out of uniform, so I'm on report. Now, I think the reporters talked to Captain Harmer saying, you know, this is a nice lady, she's done a lot of work, I don't think she should be on report. You're running a campaign now to get waves in the military. So the next thing I know, well, no, what happened during that time when I was put on report and taken off a report, it just disappeared. The report disappeared. My friends, they shunned me. They didn't speak to me in the base barracks. And everyone was kind of staying away from me. Because when you get in trouble in the military, it's not a good thing. And what you have to do in the military is, you can't stick out. You have to be right there with them. You can't stick out doing this, because I stuck out. And that is so I was very sad about that. Even my friend, there were no wafting of biscuits from the kitchen. We used to cook in there and have butter and jam and on fresh hot biscuits. Nothing of that happened. And I felt really bad because I didn't think that what I did warranted being defriended. Right. And so I was planning to re-up and make the military my career. I was so proud of my country, and I wanted to travel, and I liked the orderliness and all the perks. I guess there were perks.
Well, the hops. The hops
are perks, yeah. So I said, I can't be in an outfit like this. I can't be in the Navy, because if I had a friend in trouble, I would talk to them and still be around them. And if this happened in the military and I would talk to my friend, I would be guilty like her, or guilt by association, you said. So I said, this is not the place for me. And I was very sad. But I said, I'm still going to go to Europe. So I never took any vacation days or sick days or anything. So I had a lawless chunk of money saved up, and I sailed off on the SS France, and I went to Europe on my own and lived in Europe.
For how long? For how long did you do that?
I lived in Paris for about 2.5 years, and Switzerland about 10 months. I worked au pair, which is being part of the family, and I would take the children to school and pick them up, but in the meantime I'd be free. I went to school in France to learn French, and I forgot where I forgot my train of thought. But anyway, I loved Paris. I loved Paris. And I just took my daughter back because I said, I want to take my daughter to Paris. I've always said that. So finally we went back, thanks to my generous son-in-law. And it had so changed, I could have cried. It wasn't the romantic place. It was a little romantic, but you had to stand in line for things that you never stood in line for before. If I wanted to go to the Eiffel Tower, I'd just go and pay and go on the Eiffel Tower. If I wanted to go to the metro, it was like 10 cents, and you could go all over and change, and the system has totally changed. There were lines everywhere with tourists and costing money for things that I just went in free all the time. So I loved Paris. So, and I met my husband there. He was a jazz musician. I met him at the Alliance Française where I was taking French lessons. He was a jazz drummer. So I had a lot of jazz, interesting experiences, listening to all the people that were playing really good stuff in Paris and New York.
So did you get married there?
No, I got married. It was very complicated to get married there.
Okay.
So we just came home and got married. So.
Came home being Portland?
Yeah, no. Oh, excuse me. No, New York City. New York City. That was another exciting place. New York City. It wasn't Paris, but it was very exciting. So I tend to live in exciting places in my past.
Sounds like it. And you've had a child?
Yes, her name is Serene. She lives in North Dallas with Kent, her husband, and my wonderful grandson, Hunter. They have a beautiful home there. I call it a mansion, and she said, "Mother, this is not a mansion."
Depends where you grew up.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did you get back to the Portland area?
Well, after a while, I had to get on with my life, and I wanted to go to school full time. So I took my daughter. My husband went to LA to see if he could get anything going there. And I came home with my daughter, went to PSU for my undergraduate. And it was good being home again. And it was good being in college because the people I was in college with didn't realize how hard it was out there to get jobs and work. I was lucky in Paris, so I always had a job. I worked for Raytheon too. And I was so proud of them building missiles. I was still us, you know.
Well, I'm still us.
Well, then I went to West Virginia to get my graduate school in social work. And then came back, settled in Portland, in Gladstone, and then Portland, got in an area that's real good for my daughter, you know. So we're Mount Tabor, very nice area, safe and stuff. And then I could go on to what I'm doing now. I knew the Perales, Nestor Perala, Myra, their son, Kendrick. Unfortunately, they all passed away, but before Nestor passed away, I would take him to his meetings, his VA, Veterans for Peace meetings. And I would drive him there, and I'd make sure he didn't fall asleep, and because he was really toward his latter years, and he bought me a membership in the Vets for Peace. And to me, it was just a meeting, and I didn't know anyone, and I didn't think anything would come of it, but I thought, well, he's bought me this, so I'd better go. So I slowly started going to these Veterans for Peace meetings and getting to know people, and there are really some really heavy-duty people there, very important, very skilled, have been through life traumas that would fell a lesser one. We have a lot of PTSD there, and people working on that. And so anyway, we have fun meetings, we have food, and we have relaxed conversations and a short agenda. And it's a second Tuesday of every month at Unitarian Church. So, and I was vice president for a couple of years, 3 years, and now I was voted president. So I'm the current president. Yeah.
And you had some more pictures in here. You had a picture of you in uniform shortly after this picture, I believe.
This one? Yeah.
These?
Yeah. This might come up closer.
Okay.
This was on the front page, mind you. The front page.
And what is it?
This is, okay, there I am, barefoot, cutoffs. Okay, see here, Miss Yuri, you're out of uniform, but in light of her outstanding work, all charges are dropped. So they came by and took up another picture of me on the phone in my uniform. That's the dress blue uniform.
So you got both here.
Yeah, I got both of them there. So anyway. And this is everyone's pretty when they're young. There I was.
Well, you sure were.
I was. I got a lot of dates, I will say. I'd have two dates a night when I was doing secretarial work, because the guys had 2 shifts. So I'd go out with one person the first shift, come home, come back to the barracks, and then I had about a half an hour and for my next caller, and it was so sweet.
Now, you grew up, your dad was military, so I take it you grew up in a home that was very regimented and stuff.
Well, they were working class, Catholic, and they never hit us or anything. Mm-hmm. But there were things to be expected, and it was a little boring. You know, my big thing was picking blackberries and selling them to the neighbors. So
when you got into the military, you were already used to a fairly strict regiment.
Yes, I was. So
that wasn't a shock to you at all?
No, that wasn't. No, I was used to it, and I liked it because it was yours. You could do it, you know. And it's only for 8 hours, and you could wear what you want, do what you want. You know.
What did you get from the military? What changed you?
Well, what changed me was when I was so thrilled to be in the military and do my job, and then I got on a report and got shunned, and I just thought, no, this is not for me. So that's what changed. Oh, and then in the long run, what changed me? Well, I know these wars were going on, and when I was in Switzerland, living with the Blancpas, they asked me, what do you think about Vietnam? Why are you in Vietnam? And I says, well, we're fighting the communists. I still believe we were fighting the communists. We were in Vietnam.
Which where they got all their equipment, so.
Yeah. So she kind of closed that conversation out because obviously she knew more than I did.
So
I was at the periphery of everything. But because I was married to a jazz musician, he didn't want, in New York City, he didn't want me going in these marches and all, because it might reflect on him. And frankly, I was really busy. I was going to school, working part-time, and taking care of a 5, 6, 7-year-old daughter. So I was busy. And I was in the school milieu. And so I never marched, I never got politically involved until I met the Veterans for Peace and heard their stories. And
so how do you feel about women being in combat and stuff nowadays? Do you think that's a step forward?
Well, it could be a step forward or a step back. If women want to do that, they should be able to do it. That's my answer. I don't think it's mandatory. I'm not sure, don't quote me. But if they want to, you know, they're going to have to deal with it. And I think it'd be kind of tough.
So how would you feel about if you're talking to a high school graduate and stuff, would you recommend going into the military for them?
No, not at all. What I would recommend, they find out all about what is really going on and what's really happening. Like, oh, someone says, oh, you can be a musician, you can be in the band. No. The recruiters come to the school and they tell the kids a bunch of things that aren't really true. They gloss over the bad, they highlight the positive. They get them at an age where they're vulnerable to that information.
And
gullible, yeah. What did I say?
You said vulnerable, same thing.
Vulnerable, yeah, and gullible, yes. So, no, I would tell them, you got to be sure you know why you're going in and what you think you're going to do, and know that you could die, you could be wounded when you come home. There are a lot of needy vets who are not getting what they need. I would tell them more of the whole story. And we do have some very wonderful people. The Lucinis go to schools, and other people too. Harvey Thurstad and I think Mike Hasty. Mike Hasty goes into schools and colleges, and he's a photographer, ace photographer, and he's taken all these pictures, and he talks to the kids about reality, and he has some pretty gruesome pictures he shows them. And because he and I and everyone else in Vets for Peace feel that if you're going to go into if you're going to go into the military, you need to know, you need a reality check, and we can help you with that.
Good. Is there anything else you'd like to show me? Or anything you'd like to tell me?
Tell you? Well, I'm very happy about, oh, did I show you?
You did?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Just that I think this is a very difficult time on the world scene. We don't know what's going to happen. We're in a changing horses here pretty soon. And
the world is very vulnerable right now.
Very vulnerable.
Volatile is the word I was looking for.
Yeah, what?
Volatile, ready to explode.
Volatile, it is. It is volatile. And anything can happen anytime. So enjoy yourself.
Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you.
It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you again.
And that's it for the Veterans History Project. Thank you for joining us.